Oh man, what an episode of Mental Health Takeaways we've got for you today. This is the second of our two pilot episodes. It's the other co-host, Brad Smith, solution-focused hypnotherapist, all-round genius, good guy, and what interesting perspective he's got on a load of things. But if you can find a podcast anywhere in the world which mentions fatherhood, teaching workload, underwater swimming, big gay bears, van life, the journey from singledom, coping strategies for being overwhelmed, deathbed thoughts, contentment outside of others' views of you, then tell me where it is, because this is the only podcast I know that covers those subjects. Also, some absolutely killer quotes came out of today's episode. One from me, which was that what is mental health about if it isn't about happiness? Long-term, meaningful, sustainable happiness. What is it about? What are we trying to achieve if we're not trying to achieve that? And what on earth is the point in achieving anything else? Brad came out with a killer quote, which was that we have to do the things that we enjoy to have the capacity to help those around us. And I won't patronize you by explaining that to you. I just think that is really worth thinking around. And then a quote that I'll leave you with to look forward to in the show. And it was Brad Smith saying, "I'm leaning towards coming mustard." You're going to have to listen to the show to understand the context of that, but it is as bad as you're thinking. So, hey, here comes the show. It's an absolute belter. We really hope you enjoy it. Hey, Brad Smith, welcome to Mental Health Takeaways.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
This is your podcast.
No, I've heard it's an excellent podcast.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. You're a co-creator of it.
It's great. It's a pleasure to be on here. But going to be quite an interesting experience to go through it as guest scenario.
Yeah, well, hopefully, you'll be able to sample it and then feedback, and then we can, move off that feedback. We're going to go through the same format as we always do. I'm going to ask you if you could order any takeaway, what would you go for? The reason we're going to talk about takeaways is because it's an easy segue into a conversation, because everyone loves talking about takeaways. Then we'll do a couple of silly questions, like a little bit of would you rather. We'll see what your answers are with those. We've got some funny ones for those. Those would you rathers will touch on feelings and thoughts and emotions, and why you think and feel that way. And then we'll have a little chat about if you could quickly meet your younger self and quickly meet your older self, what you might ask them or what you might tell them. So hopefully it will be good and interesting. Are you all good to get going?
Yeah, let's do it.
Grand. Okay, Bradders, you can order a takeaway. And I made the mistake of saying to previous guests, who actually will be future guests, because I think these will be some of the first episodes that we...
I'm glad that we've mastered time travel only a few episodes into the podcast.
It's good, isn't it? Yeah. It is already going better than we expected. Yeah, we've got time travel nailed. But yeah, I've made the mistake of saying to some others, like, if it was a fantasy takeaway and you could order absolutely anything. But let's imagine that because you're a bud of mine, that I am going to shout you a takeaway. What are you going to go for?
Nice. Well, am I down here? Am I on my home turf?
Well, do you know what I've got? Following up from takeaway, I've got what, why, and who with. I didn't have where, but yeah, I guess where you are.
Yeah. Well, if you're shouting me the takeaway, I probably have to invite you as well, do I?
Why not? That'd be lovely. That's really kind of you think.
Okay, free takeaway, I suppose. Yeah, well, takeaways. There's not loads of choice where I am. I'm going to be honest.
Where are you?
Down in the mighty Cornwall. So we've got a good Indian takeaway, and that's probably what I would go to. I think if I could choose any takeaway, it would be pad thai. And actually, I've struggled to top. You took me for a pad thai when I came to visit you in Bath, and that was amazing. So that was awesome.
I told you the story about this.
No.
So that would have been in August. I can't even remember what year, but it 100% would have been August, because you came up, you were going to the Wave in Bristol, the inland surf facility. As you quite rightly say, we went for a Thai and it was very enjoyable. And the next day was my mate Sam's birthday, and he had nothing cracking, nothing to do. He's got young children, so he couldn't have like a night out, and it was only the two of us anyway. I said, look, come into town, mate. I'll take you out for dinner. And he came into town. I said, look, where do you fancy going? He's like, I really fancy a Thai.
Nice.
So I went to the same place that I took you. The day after I took you, me and this other guy, my mate Sam, sat at the same table that you and I sat at. I ordered the same meal, and I'm convinced that the staff there thought, oh, poor fucker, he was here on a date yesterday with some guy. That's clearly not gone well. He's here on a date again today. Hope it gets better this time, mate. Good luck. Yeah. So sorry, you go
Nice.
for a Thai.
Yeah, that would be my thing of choice. But being down here, typically, it's an Indian takeaway.
Okay.
Is the most common thing, and usually, again, a bit of a creature of habit. Really, I've got a sweet tooth, so I do like. Okay. I know I get a lot of grief about this, but I do like a chicken korma. Love a chicken korma. Man. So tasty, so sweet.
Have you ever had I think it's a chicken tandoori korma. They like cook the chicken in dry spice first.
Nice.
And then put it in the korma sauce. It's lush.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. So, yeah, like normally the takeaway of choice would be that, and then something to counter that. So nothing like really hot. I'm not a mad fan of super hot food or anything like that. So normally like a lamb balti or something to go with it.
Nice.
Poppadoms, mango chutney is essential.
It's the best, isn't it? I don't know why they don't give you 4 of those.
No, that's it. So that's what was good. And then throw a naan bread, Peshwari naan in there as well, with pilau rice.
Peshwari naan. Peshwari is the one with the coconut.
Like coconutty one, yeah.
Man, you might as well just have this for pudding.
Yeah.
Do you want ice cream as well?
Ice creams? No, I wouldn't normally have dessert, you see, because obviously with an Indian takeaway, you just eat until you cannot physically fit any more food in, and then just feel dreadful for about an hour afterwards.
That's also what I find with an Indian takeaway, that you eat it, and the problem is 2 weeks later you're hungry again.
That's it. Outrageous. Terrible value for money.
I also think it's quite a man thing that I've heard other people say and do, to say, I have a sweet tooth. I think it's better than saying, I like puddings. I love a pudding. I think you can get away with being a man that says, I have quite a sweet tooth.
Yeah.
Sounds more civilized than...
well, I'm a civilized kind of guy.
Sweets. People say that about you.
They do.
Not to your face, sadly, but...
no. Okay, so that's what I would go for. That'd be my token takeaway, I think.
What was it? A lamb? What did you say you'd have on the side?
A lamb balti.
Down, you see.
Normally go to.
You're running me ragged here, Bradders. This is going to cost a fortune.
That's quite a lot. Like normally, like again, that probably comes from like having that with somebody.
Okay.
I wouldn't just eat that on my own. So yeah, like normally I'd be up for, sharing it, like maybe if it was mates or something. It's not the sort of thing my little boy would go for, so we wouldn't really do that together. So it'd be more like, mates really.
For the benefit of our listeners who will no doubt be curious about the factors which affect your mental health and our mental health and their mental health, you're not mentioning the presence of a partner in the conversation.
Nope. So I am separated.
Okay.
Yeah, sort of fairly recently, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. So we're not divorced, but we are separated, and that's probably the route that is the route we're going down. So yeah, that's the situation. So single man, young, free, and single.
So go on then. Who is having this curry with you? I know you very kindly and politely said that it'd be the Nib Dog, aka me.
Yeah, well,
we could do that.
Yeah, we could do that. I would. It'd be great. It's not as I think one of the things you notice when you're no longer in a relationship, and I was married for I don't know, maybe 11 years, maybe. It's quite difficult to get that time back, isn't it? That like with not the time back, even though we've mastered time travel, but time with friends, because yes. They're all in, if they're married and things like that, it's hard. It's not that people don't want to come out and be sociable, but they've got bedtimes to deal with and kids and a wife and all of those things. So it is nice when you get those occasions where it's like, actually, no, we're all gonna meet up and there's gonna be a few of us, and so it would be great to think, yeah, do you know what, we're gonna get a takeaway. Nibbo's gonna be there. Let's get Skin Dog there as well. Let's get Aaron there. Let's get Bubs there, and we'll have a few beers and we'll order a load of takeaway, and we'll fix the world in one evening.
Do you know what? I've got one of those coming up this weekend. So it's one of my best mate's birthdays next week. He's not really a pubs and clubs kind of guy, and neither am I. I said, look, because I've got the house. I said, come to mine. We'll have a poker night. And I said, have you still got the poker chips? And he said, well, yeah, I do. But his wife had said, look, you going to use these poker chips, or can we just get rid of them because they're taking up space? He's got one of those like Rolodex things. He's like, whoa, can't get rid of those. You know me and the boys, we play poker and we use those about once every 6 years. That's about how regularly we get together for like something like a poker night where we're having pizza and beers and stuff. And we do it regularly, but honestly, the last one hasn't happened since pre-COVID.
Yeah.
We'll have this one in 2024, and if we have another one in the 2020s, I'll be amazed. But nevertheless, we're like, yeah, we'll do it. It'll be like 2029 will be the next one.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? And it's not, like I say, it's not that people don't want to, but people are busy. Like, and even I guess from my point of view, like I'm busy, as well. It's not that easy to kind of tie me down, and I don't have to, do all of the family stuff every weekend. So yeah, people are busy, but that's okay. That's what makes it good when you get together, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course it does. And that's that nice thing about I think a lot of guys have got those friends that you can just pick up where you left off.
Oh, absolutely. See, immediately now I'm thinking like to my mates up in Newcastle that I grew up with. And I see them really rarely because they've never come to Cornwall, because the idea of travelling from Newcastle to Cornwall is madness. But I sometimes go up there, again, not very often, visit, my parents and that sort of thing. But whenever I see those guys, it's like you just literally pick up, and that's an amazing thing, I think, in itself. I just always think it's great.
There must be some science behind that of why some friendship groups, and I think it happens quite frequently with men. I don't know if it's as frequently with women. I hope it is, because it's such a nice thing. But like these guys that, one of them in particular, I've not seen in years, despite the fact that I'm godfather to his son. But he'll walk in the door and I'll be like, right, dickhead? And then we'll be straight back into where we were last time we saw each other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool, isn't it?
Just curious of the science behind that. Anyway, okay, right. So I've got your order. Let's imagine that we've dialed that in, and it's getting brought metaphorically and virtually to us. We're going to jump into some would you rather questions, because there's just such easy conversation starters.
I'm already excited about whatever this first one is going to be.
I think
knowing the format.
I think I've mentioned this actual question to you in the past, but I've thought if we're going to ask anyone, I'm going to ask you. So as what we've discovered is a single man, potentially your level of attractiveness might or might not be important to you. And essentially I want to ask you, would you rather sweat mayonnaise or cum mustard?
Wow, that's a biggie. I knew it was going to be a good one, but would I rather
this as a question.
Sweat mayonnaise or cum mustard? How popular is mustard these days?
Oh, we're going English mustard as well, given that you are English. None of that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love a little bit of Dijon, but not French mustard, not the quite palatable.
No,
French
okay.
Pure.
But sweating mayonnaise. I mean, that's
gross,
pretty savage, isn't it? I mean, I've never been one to sweat loads, which is a fortunate thing if I'm going to sweat mayonnaise, it'd be good to not sweat loads. Gone are my basketball days then I would sweat a lot. That would be difficult, covered in mayonnaise.
Well, you like the gym, don't you? You're a bit of
I do. Yeah, I like the gym. So again, that would probably be a bit awkward, wouldn't it?
Mind you, your other, because obviously I know you, your other favoured form of exercise is surfing. And I guess if you're sweating in the sea, it's not that big a deal.
That's okay. That's all right.
I
mean, it's arguably handy there because, get to see, come out, order your fish and chips, mayonnaise on tap. So a bit more mayonnaise, just have a little dunk in there.
My head was going to do sharks like mayonnaise.
I wouldn't like sweating mayonnaise. I think because I'm just thinking like go on holiday and like you get a bit hot and you like just covered in mayonnaise on your face. That's not good. So I'm leaning towards coming mustard because now there's a sentence I never thought I'd say.
Well, do you know what? I think we've talked in the past about how probably our only two listeners are going to be our respective mothers, but I think we've turned both of them off as well.
Yeah, that's it. So now that we're down to 0 listeners,
feel free to say whatever you like.
Okay, I mean, there's a place near me that does really good food. That they have like American style hot dogs and they have mustard and a bit of ketchup. I could get a little side hustle going there, earn a bit of extra cash.
Do you know what? I was really frowning at that, as if to say nobody would ever go for that. But I'm not going to kink shame anyone because there are people that are into eating all kinds of bodily produce.
Yeah.
But B, there was a little while, some time ago, I'm sure Jonathan Ross had something to do with it, where breast milk ice cream was a massive deal. Where I'm sure it was in Soho or somewhere in London, where breast milk ice cream was available and you could buy that. And also, I think in the bodybuilding world, colostrum, which is like the
that was a thing. I remember hearing about that.
So maybe the idea of your jizzy mustard on hot dogs might be a delicacy.
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, not just acceptable, but actually desirable.
Yeah. But I think the long and short of it is it's easier to cope with that scenario than sweating mayonnaise.
Move along, we will. Oh, it's a shame that our mums don't listen anymore. Right, we'll go into another would you rather. We've got two opposites here. Would you rather feel forgotten or would you rather feel overloaded and overwhelmed?
Oh, that's almost as deep as the first one.
And again, it's about feelings and perceptions. So
would I rather feel forgotten or would I rather feel overwhelmed?
Yeah. No one giving a shit about you versus people just like Brad.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Would I like to be forgotten about? I think myself, and probably like lots of people, the idea of being forgotten is not great. I think I probably have you ever heard from the All Blacks New Zealand rugby team? And they have this whole thing about actually you leave the shirt in a better place. So it's a real, obviously it's an honour to be selected for the country, and the idea is you when you put that shirt on, that actually there you are, like now you've taken on this All Black shirt, and you have to leave the shirt in a better place than when you left it. And I really like that.
I already love that, yeah.
I like that idea. And so the idea of being forgotten is probably quite difficult. I mean, ultimately, we'll all be forgotten. In a couple of generations' time, we'll all be forgotten. But I'd like to think that actually I'd left some sort of small mark that was positive. Particularly with my little boy. That he remembers things, and but ultimately we all get forgotten. Overwhelmed is definitely something I've felt before from personal perspective in terms of separation and going through all of that stuff and the trials and tribulations of that. Overwhelmed and
professionally as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say professionally as well. In a working environment. As a teacher, teachers will be able to relate to that. As a deputy head, it was that, you described that overwhelm being like, Brad, 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 Brad. Well, yeah, that came and that came from all directions. So yeah, that's not a nice thing. I think I cope with no, I don't. That's a lie. I don't cope with being overwhelmed. What I do is I put my head down and I work more. I say that. What I did was put my head down and work more, and that was my kind of go-to. So I didn't cope with being overwhelmed.
If you were to suddenly face some overwhelm now, is there stuff you've learned from that you employ?
I think there is a bit of a tendency where I'd be like, actually, I'll whir away at it, but I think I'm much better. I think I recognise that actually you can't drop the stuff that keeps you going. We often talk with clients about keeping the boat stable. Okay. So, I think one of the things in the past where I've experienced being overwhelmed is I drop it's like, when I can't go for a surf, I haven't got time to go surfing, haven't got time to go biking, and that would just be a disaster. And I can't even really squeeze in the gym because I need to work. And actually that is just so counterproductive. So now probably my go-to is, like just the other day, I a lot kind of whirring through my mind, and I went straight to the beach and I walked the dog and I just went straight in for a sea swim because I know that is, that's just going to balance me and level me out and put me in a space where I can cope better with whatever's going on. So that's definitely something I've learned to deal with overwhelm.
Do you know what I talk to people about the idea of putting your head underwater, and that working and taking on the stresses and strains of daily life, and not just professionally, but like at home with the family and whatever else, that sometimes that's like putting your head underwater, and actually you can do that indefinitely for an incredibly long length of time, so long as you regularly come up for a breath. You come up for a breath and you can go back in, and you come up for a breath and you go back in. You try to just stay down there without coming up for a breath, you won't last long. And the metaphor of like, if you try to just plow on and on and on, you do it for a little while, but it won't last. You can't keep doing that.
Yeah. So I think they're really good would you rathers. God, I can't sit on the fence on this, can I? So I think being overwhelmed is not good. Nobody enjoys that. It's not a nice place to be. Yes, there are things you can do to try and cope with that. Being forgotten, the only person that bothers would be myself. It didn't have any impact on anybody else. And ultimately, I think we're all going to be forgotten anyway. So, but one of the things that you can do is I could go about and live my best life and be forgotten about, and that wouldn't make any difference to anybody. But actually, I could be happy and live in my best life. The fact that nobody chooses to remember is irrelevant, really. I'm content, happy in my life. And I think, to be honest, go in and live in your life that way, you would be remembered, But again, ultimately, everyone gets forgotten at some point, Our kids will remember us. Their kids will probably vaguely remember us. But after that, no, we're just a name, aren't we? So I think it's better to be forgotten.
Here, Brad.
Sorry, it's very emotional. It's a good question, really good question.
I like it.
I think let's sack off overwhelmed. Nobody likes that. If I got to the end of my life having spent it all overwhelmed, or somebody saying, actually, you've had a blast, but no one's going to remember you, I'm like, okay, I'll take the blast that nobody remembers than feeling rubbish. So that's it. Yeah. Forget me.
Excellent perspective. I like that very much. Thanks, Bradders. Let's cheer things up with some positive emotions and feelings. Depending on what your answer is, I've got a potential follow-on for this one. But would you rather feel desired or respected?
Ooh.
And I'm kind of coming from a place of, without turning it around to be about me, star of the show, that I think when you are a single man dating, sometimes, and I'm not saying you have to give me this answer as a single man dating, but I think sometimes you get that you're in that place between, do I act in a respectable way, or do I just want to be desired? Do I go out there and earn people's respect and be the nicest guy they've ever met on a dating app, or do I just want someone to desire me? So yeah, I'm keen to know what you think of that.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because it is, and I get, I answer it from where I am now, really, which is as somebody separated, single man. Yeah, it's nice to feel desired, isn't it? It's nice to get some attention and to feel wanted, and I think anyone who has been through that process of separation, that's probably something that there's a little bit of longing for,
Yeah.
So
I think that's with. There's obviously two sides to separation, like the sort of the leaver and the leavee. But I think even if you were the leaver, there's an idea of being the leaver for a reason. And
yeah.
I think for a lot of people that might be that having not felt desired, and mind you, it also might have been not felt respected. So I'll
yeah.
You crack on.
Would I rather be desired or respected? I mean, respect is really important to me. I was brought up to be very respectful. I think it's important. I've always tried to kind of treat people in a respectful way, because I don't know, without respect, what else is there really? I think if you're respected, people kind of desire that. Do people desire what? It's interesting that in the whole world of.
Are you trying to jib out of it and try to get answers into
I'm not trying. I'm not trying to jib out of it. But I'm a classic fence sitter, though. I am a fence sitter.
Well, you'll hurt your bum sitting on that fence, Brad.
Yeah, that's it. I think being desired is an interesting one, and what I've learned as I've got older, because I think growing up, I lacked a lot of confidence. Really, I wouldn't say that I particularly felt desired, if I was being honest, which is what the show's all about. I'd go out. I remember going out when I was younger, and my mates like pull in and stuff like that, and that was never really me.
Well, brothers, I went to uni with you, and we were fucking tragic at it.
Well, I know. So, but what I've learned actually is that some of those kind of lessons that kind of people tell you, like there are people for everyone out there. Do you know what I mean? Like I am not a lot of people's cup of tea, but I am some people's cup of tea, and I think probably that kind of takes a while to kind of learn that. I suppose.
It's such a nice thing, isn't it, to know that you're someone's cup of tea.
Yeah.
I'm not being flippant with this comment, because genuinely it had a bit of an impact on me, where I was just kind of going through my life and probably not in the best shape ever, a little bit unkempt, didn't always have my the freshest haircut or whatever. And then I discovered, wait a minute, the gay community absolutely love a big gay bear, and that is not my target market. And I never looked at myself, much like you, never looked at myself and thought yeah, check me out, I'm looking good. But then to know that there's the big gay bear fan club, and that's a thing, even when it's not 100% not my target market, to think, well, do you know what? In someone's eyes, this is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of take it, don't you? Think,
that's it. That's it. So yeah, I guess bringing it around to make my decision, I think it's got to be respected. Because I think to be desired without respect is a worse road to go down. If you
it's pretty shallow, isn't it?
It's really shallow. So let's say we've been talking in the context of being a single man. I get into a relationship with somebody who finds me very desirable but has no respect for me. Well, that's not going to be a happy road, is it?
Yeah, true.
Well, I guess you could. I get
further down the road, aren't you?
That's it, and I guess you could argue actually, but if somebody really respects you, but actually there's no desire for you, then that's not. There's limitations to that too, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I think the respect thing is important, and I think because I'm also kind of thinking about how would I prefer to view other people? How would I like to, who would I want to hang out with? Somebody that I desired or somebody that I respected? Well, ultimately, for longevity, the person that I respected.
Such a looker down the road.
I know, I am. Like, I mean, the desire bit in immediately. Well, yeah, that's great. But
I would give exactly the same answer of like tomorrow or tonight now, someone that I desire. Long term, someone that I respect, 100%.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what makes the whole journey out of singledom so difficult, because you've got to find someone that you desire now, but that you will respect long term.
That's it, and it's because we're not just factoring us this time around, are we? No. Obviously, you as a young, handsome, single man as well.
Bachelor, I like the term bachelor.
Yeah, I like bachelor. Let's go with that. But yeah, you do think like, actually, would I introduce this person to my son? And if the answer to that is no, we had this conversation a little while back, just chatting. Yeah. If the answer is no, well,
what's the point?
That's going to come from the respect point of view, isn't it? I think so. I'm going to go respected. That's going to be my would you rather.
Okay. And you never know, you might find someone that you respect and that respects you back, and she loves the taste of mustard.
Well, then I'd be the most desirable man in the world.
Bradders, you'll never believe it, right? Your younger self, who could be whatever age you deem, has just walked into the room, but it's 5 minutes until his bedtime. He's got to be gone, but you've got a chance to tell him something. How old is this younger version of you, and what would you tell him?
Well, when we've talked about this in the past, we talked. Did we talk 8, 18, and 80?
I like those three, but our future guests, I'm just gazing into the future. I imagine our future guests might not stick to that strictly, but I like 8, 18, and 80.
I think 8-year-old me. I mean, that's almost the same age as my little boy now. So, do you know? I think I'd just tell him to have fun. Just have. I mean, nice. I think probably when you're 8, that's your only real priority anyway. If all being well.
Can you remember not having fun as an 8-year-old?
No, not really. I had loads of fun, but I think have fun and be confident. I think when I think back to being younger, I wasn't terribly confident. I was okay, but I was never like the first person to speak out about things, probably I missed the odd opportunity because I didn't speak up and put myself in that situation. So I'd just say have fun and be confident. That's it really. 18, wow. Do you remember being 18, Nebo?
Yeah, I was a prick.
Yeah, some things don't change, do they?
Well, thank you. I was like, I think it's one of the reasons why the TV series The In-Betweeners speaks to so many people. I was a little bit of all 4 of The In-Betweeners, and yeah, what a gormless twat I was for a lot of being 18 years old.
Yeah,
and I don't think my friends would say that to me, having known me at that time. But yeah, 18-year-old me, I think, although he had a lot to learn and then he learned it.
Yeah.
What would you say to your 18-year-old self?
Do you know, thinking about it, I don't think it'd be too different. I think I'd just be like, have fun, be confident. I don't think I was, even by the time I was 18, I don't think I was that confident. I was confident in a sporting environment, but I still doubt myself sometimes, and sometimes think like not quite as good as my teammates. But ultimately, that drove me, that motivated me, that and I pushed levels way beyond what I probably could have. So I think ultimately it served me well. But yeah, just have fun and be confident. Don't doubt yourself. And this is going to be a good ride. And probably don't lose sight of who you are. And what I mean by that is, I was always really my mum always used to say to me, "Oh my God," I used to drive her mad. She'd be like, "Oh my God, you're so laid back, you're horizontal." Because I was always really chilled out, and I, just took my time and I just kind of did things, and I was very laid back. And when I got into my career, I mean, I went into teaching, the professional answer, because to help kids and do wonderful things and educate the youth of today, which I did for all of those things.
For children of the future.
But the holidays were quite important. I wanted to travel. I wanted to basically, when I was 18, all I wanted to do was kind of surf, and so I wanted to travel and I wanted to surf, and so teaching was great for that. And then at some point along the way, I got kind of that competitiveness that I had. I just got swept along, and I was like, all of a sudden, I wasn't like a PE teacher. I had this responsibility and that responsibility, and then I was like on the senior leadership team, and then out of nowhere, I was like applying for deputy head role, and then I got it, and then I was like, and then I was, fast forward into head teacher and did my MPQH and all of that stuff, and ultimately, that wasn't the reason why, kind of issues developed in the marriage, but it was, it was a factor. Like, I was so swept up in that, and it was only afterwards
you forgot who you were a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't think I had at the time, but looking back now, I'm like, yeah, how did that happen? How did I go from this kind of fun-loving, just I'm going to surf and I'm going to travel, and to actually, like, now I'm like deputy head teacher, and it's very serious. And one of the things that always sticks out in my mind, and I sometimes tell my clients this now that I've done this whole sea change, and hypnotherapy, and still teaching, but hypnotherapy as well, I'll often say to them about an experience that I went for a surf one weekend. When I was deputy head, I went down to Perranporth, met up with a load of friends, some of whom have been guests on the show. I was going for a surf. Obviously, for people who know nothing about surfing, it's not just kind of rock up and kind of do what you've got things to think about. You've got to think about the wind direction, the tide. Is it going in? Is it coming out? What's the swell period like? All of this stuff. So I'd gone down there in order to try and time it in the morning and get my surf. And then I was going to meet friends in Perranporth, and we we're just going to hang out and stuff like that. So I went down for my surf. I went to Watergate Bay. It's a lovely spot. I love surfing at Watergate Bay. And it was awful. It's just none of the conditions were right. The wind hadn't done what it was supposed to do. And it was just like a rubbish surf. And so I was a bit frustrated, but I was like, okay, never mind. Right, we'll go and meet up with friends and stuff. And we had some food, and then we went for a walk along the beach. And as we were walking along the beach, like, the wind swung and the surf just was like perfect. It was like textbook, and we don't get that often in Cornwall. Everyone thinks Cornwall's like surfing capital of the country, but it's not that often. It's that good, and so all the boys were like, hey, like, let's go, as everyone come in, and I was like, I can't. Yeah, I've had my surf, and like, now I've got to go home and work. I've got stuff to do. I've got to, because anyone in education, there's sort of ingrained that you write off part of your weekend to work more, and you write off your evenings and this, that, and the other. And so I was like, I can't go in. Like, just looking at this perfect surf, and a mate of mine said to me, he said, "Hey mate, you're not going to lie on your deathbed and wish that you'd worked more." And
who was that mate?
It was Aaron. He's a wise man.
It would be, wouldn't it?
It was, and do you know what? That's always stuck with me, and I tell that to clients now, because you wouldn't, would you? You're not going to lie there and be like, "Oh, damn! I wish I'd worked more. I wish I'd not seen my family or kids more. I wish I'd not done my hobbies more and work." Like, no one's doing that. So
I know you were an assistant head, but and I can't remember the specifics of it, but the life expectancy for retiring head teachers is ludicrously short.
Yeah.
Of work, finish work, retired, and I don't want to spook anybody out, but yeah, their longevity post work, because it's such an absorbing role. Yeah, their longevity post work is not impressive.
Yeah. No, that's it. So So yeah, that was something that really, really stuck with me. And so I guess, I mean, this is a long conversation with 18-year-old me. I wasn't having all of that with him. I was just telling you the background.
Yeah, you were informed by this experience,
but yeah, so that was it. So to hold on to that, and obviously, like now things are very different. You know, I've got the hypnotherapy. You know, starting this kind of project is amazing, and so it's like stick with that whole you get one shot at this life. And that's what I used to be all about, you know. When I was 18, 20, it's like you got one shot, let's just max it out. And then that got lost somewhere.
When you think about it, that you get the gift of that wisdom so young, and actually for some of us, as we grow older, we lose that wisdom.
Yeah.
And we start thinking it's about paying the rent or the mortgage, or working your way up the career ladder, or going from like a small Mercedes to a bigger Mercedes.
Yeah.
Or an old car to a newer car.
Yeah, and that you know, that totally, I got swept away with that. You know, if I get this promotion, I'll earn X amount more money, and I've never been materialistic, never really. Like even now, I look at some of my clothes. I'm like, I'll get a memory pop up on Facebook from like 8 years ago, and I'm like, I still wear that T-shirt.
Do you get it where you look at it and think, that's still one of the good T-shirts?
yeah, that's it. So I'll never. But at some point, it was like, oh yeah, I know. And I was driven, and all of a sudden, I was like looking at these salaries, and I was like, wow, you know, this is amazing that I've got the potential to earn this salary. But you're not looking at the salary, going, yeah, but how many hours a week are you going to work to get that salary?
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's one of the things now, being kind of separated and single and living in my little house that is really quite basic compared to the huge extended house that, you know, we'd created before. But there's a lot of things that actually this place grounds me to. It's that simplicity of life.
It's the life, isn't it, mate? I like you have a small, simple, humble home, and I love it.
Yeah, that's it. And I always loved van life. You know, I've not got a van at the minute, which I don't like, because I've had vans for a long time, you know, kitted out. And it's the one thing I always say whenever, you know, come back from a trip, you'd be so relaxed, so chilled out. And it was about the simplicity. It was about, you know, cold water, like doing the washing up yourself, only having a cup and a plate and just none of the material stuff. And I used to love trips away, because it was about surfing, it was about nice weather, it was about friends, it was about laughing, it was about stupid stuff. It wasn't about material things.
I do remember how, though, you couldn't go to a cafe without raiding their sugar sachets, their little milk pots, ketchup sachets. I've definitely been to a cafe with you, like, this is all free shit. I can take this and put it in the van.
Yeah,
and then I don't need...
Was that a cafe? I thought that was a service station. Sorry.
It was somewhere. I forget
where
it was.
Well, you know, it's there. It's there. That stuff will go off if it doesn't get used. Chuck it in your camper van.
Milk pots are going in the van.
But yeah, simple life.
Yeah, I've got a lot of time for that, Brad. 18-year-old you doesn't have a lot of time for that. He's had to move on.
No, he's gone.
Right, 8-year-old you has shuffled into the room. You've got 5 minutes before he's asleep. The current time now is 20 to 10 at night.
Wow.
It's amazing that he's still awake. But he's 80 years old, and you can ask him anything. Like lottery numbers, Grand National winners, not that. But yeah, you can ask 80-year-old you whatever you want to ask him. What would you go for?
Oh, it's a biggie, isn't it?
Brad, you help me write this question. How have you not got an answer?
I know. And do you know what? I've been there's been points today, knowing that we're doing this, I'm like, I wonder what am I going to do with that? And then I've been like, no, don't think you're going to overthink it. Just you put it out of your mind. So
I think the context of the question is you're surprised by the fact that he walks in, because it wouldn't happen, would it? 80-year-old you. So I like that it's fresh and that it's authentic.
I think, are you happy? Because I think going back, it feels like we've gone quite philosophical. But that's what I love about this, isn't it? Like, it can go anywhere. Like, guests are going to take this anywhere. But
what is mental health about?
But are you happy? Because if we get to the grand old age of 80, You just want to be happy. At that point, we've potentially not got loads of time left in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
So, are you happy? Are you happy with the way you did things? And then that might lead into, okay, well, yeah. In the same way that I would talk to 18-year-old me and give some very simple and basic advice, maybe 80-year-old would benefit 42-year-old Brad as well. But are you happy?
Cheat. You're so you like to sit on the fence about the would you rather's, and then B, when you get to meet your 80-year-old self and you get to ask him anything, and you're like, I'm not going to ask him anything. I'm going to get him to tell me stuff.
I committed to those would you rather's, and it's so you're happy. And because we want that for everyone, won't we? There's not one of your friends that you could think about and be like, I hope they're less happy than the others.
Yeah,
ultimately, we want everyone, our kids, our family, our friends, we want them to be happy. Well, here you go, 80-year-old me. Are you? And I hope you were. And if you're not, you're not dead just yet. So you got a bit of time. And actually, when you're 80, I'm quite looking forward to that, because that kind of like being the old person, you can do and say whatever you want, and no one can really because you're old.
Don't give a shit by that point.
Nah, that's it. So if he's not happy, he can just whip his kit off and go and do a few laps outside and swing his pants around his head and have a right laugh. But yeah, is he happy?
I think that's great, and actually, I think it's a perfect recipe for you, as you're such a sort of looker down the roader. But as you're looking down the road, you're wondering, is 80-year-old you happy? And I think you're probably quite connected to that idea of it's your responsibility to make 80-year-old you happy.
Yeah.
You got to do the things in your life now that are going to guarantee that 80-year-old you actually ends up happy.
Yeah, that's it. You want to look back and then again, it's going back to the would you rather. Like, if I'm going to be forgotten, well, actually, I want to look back as 80-year-old me and be like, yeah, I'm happy and I'm proud of what I did, and I lived a life, a respectful life where I did right by people, and I'm proud of that. I'm happy. Yeah, that's fine. Strike me down now.
Listen, your takeaway is nearly about to be delivered. I can hear him coming up the drive now. We need to come up with a takeaway, like a tangible, usable tip that someone can take away from this conversation and apply, either as like a mindset thing or something they can actually apply to their day-to-day life. I've been listening intently and I've jotted one down. But if you want to try to think of one as I go through, the one that I picked out, and I listened to a lot of it, and I listened to all of it, in fact. And I wrote down a lot of things like we all get forgotten, and if we're all going to be forgotten, you might as well be living your best life and not worrying too much, and that you can't drop the stuff that is the stuff that keeps you going. But the key takeaway for me was that you're not going to lie on your deathbed wishing you'd worked more.
Yeah.
I think it's something that I've heard that said previously, and like an idiot, I've forgotten that I've heard that said previously. So I've got my own little mental health project on the go as well, and actually that is about trying to work more flexibly so that I can be more present for my kids. So look, there's a teaching assistant at my school. I'll give her a shout out, Sarah Booth.
Get on, Sarah.
And yeah, go on, Sarah Booth. And she said, you're not going to get this time back, because I told her I'd never been to any of my kids' sports days. And I feel like my boss would probably say yes, but I just don't feel like it can feel quite sort of stressful and quite strained at my work sometimes. And I feel like, it's not going to help the ship, is it, if I jump ship and go and see my kid in a sports day? But she's like, when it's done, it's done.
Yeah,
you don't get to rewind that. If you miss it, you miss it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm trying to work more flexibly so that I can be more present for my kids. Not so I can have more money. I don't care about that. Yeah. And so when you said that you're absolutely not going to lie on your deathbed, and you're absolutely not going to be 80-year-old you talking to metaphorical younger version of yourself or younger relatives, and you're not going to say, God, I wish I worked more.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's going to be my key takeaway, that I need to remember that and sort of hold that at the front of my mind, I think. Was there another takeaway?
Yeah, well, I mean, following on from that, again, this is something I talk to clients about a lot, is when we don't do the stuff that we want to do, that is good for us to look after ourselves, because you talked about actually work's gonna struggle if I'm not there, and this, that, and the other. I see this with mums a lot. Mums do this a lot, but I think dads do it a lot as well, because we put everything before it. We put the kids before us, and wife before us, or husband before us. But the thing that you gain is, all right, the school might struggle for one day when you're not there, but actually you'll come back with twice as much capacity. So we have to do the things that we enjoy doing in order to have the capacity to help those around us. And I think that's one of it's a really obvious one that I think, I talked about, not in the past, I put my head down, I just try and work more, work through it, I'll work harder and so knowing, like, actually, no, I need to go to the beach, and I need to either walk by the sea, or ideally get in the sea and swim or paddleboard or surf. I think that's one that's very kind of common knowledge, that actually we need to do that, but people don't. So
it's
that's
amazing, isn't
it? I know it's such a key takeaway.
In the same kind of bracket as the 8 pints of water a day and the 8 hours sleep at night, that you do it, you feel amazing.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, you stop doing it.
Yeah.
Why don't I still do that?
Yeah, that's it. So, and I think, again, thinking about the other angle we've gone down, is that it's taken some time to reflect. So if you are overwhelmed with something, you can get lost in that problem, and you can become so obsessed with that problem. That's the way our brain works. But we can get obsessed with the problem. What we sometimes need to do is stop and take a breath and reevaluate that. And so when I think about kind of my career and the difficulties that I encountered in that, and then that all coincided with what was going on in my personal life, like everything happened at once, and then COVID happened as well, just to add it all into the mix. But one of the positives for me that came out of COVID, and I think this happened for lots of people, is it allowed people to reflect. Actually, what am I doing? Am I happy with what I'm doing? And so going back to that idea of me being on this road of, like, deputy head looking for headship, all that sort of stuff, to all of a sudden having time, and do I want to do that? And the answer was ultimately no. Like, actually, wouldn't it be cool to be a hypnotherapist?
Was that your moment? Was it the pandemic and around that time that caused you to stop, think, and then change direction?
Yeah, it was. And like I say, it all coincided at the same time. So it was like, work imploding, personal life imploding, COVID. So, if you're not going to reflect at that point, I did nothing else to lose at that stage. But I thought, well, what do I want?
It'd be really freeing, though, can't it? When
that's
you've
it.
got nothing else to lose.
That's it. So,
free you up.
And that's what took me back to, like, actually, where's the surfer gone? Where's the, like, happy-go-lucky guy gone? I want that guy back. And so it became about,
we all
actually
wanted that guy back, and we're delighted that he is back.
But it was like, okay, so how am I going to create that? Because you don't have to work all of those hours to get that. Like, actually, and that's where I was like, okay, I'm gonna retrain. I'm gonna become a hypnotherapist. I knew about it, and it was really interesting to me, and I've always been fascinated by mindset and stuff. So it was like, I'm gonna do that. I'm going to do that, and it's going to give me the life that I want. So I'm going to take back control. So,
I love that you're a living example of someone who's actually done it. You're not preaching it from a position of someone should do this, but I'm not going to. I love that you're talking about it from a position of, I changed direction. And here I am, and I'm happy, and it's going well.
Yeah, that's it. So I know I'm teasing two out, but I think the two go hand in hand, because you got to keep the ship stable by doing the things you enjoy in order to be to be able to reflect. Actually, am I happy with what's going on? And one more, I promise, then I'm going to shut up. And again, this is
thinking we had an outside chance of getting this recording under 1 hour.
We can do it. Can still be done. Talk. And I know, and it's going to sound like a real cliche given the aim of this podcast, but it was to talk. And I didn't reach out to talk when I was struggling, but fortunately, I had some good friends who reached out to me that knew I was struggling, and it made such a difference. And I can still picture now where I sat on the beach talking to you. I can still picture, the coastal walk that I went on talking to another good friend, and all of those, because they were so important. So, keep doing the things you enjoy, because you're not going to want to do those when times are tough. Talk to people. It's amazing who's been through similar stuff, but they've never told you because they didn't talk about it either.
Yeah, man.
And reflect. They're my takeaway. I know that's not one, but there's my takeaways.
Brad,
and we're still under an hour.
Yeah, well, I'm going to talk now. Listen, I know we intend to say this to our future guests, but I genuinely really think that there will be people that listen to this episode. There will be men that identify with a lot of the themes that you've covered. And there will be people, men and women, that learn from the conversation we've had and how to have conversations or ways to have conversations with men that include the subjects of thoughts and feelings. And obviously that is what mental health is. I think people get that slight mystique and stigma about it, that actually it's this big mysterious thing that nobody can possibly talk about unless you're well trained and well qualified. But we can talk about thoughts and feelings, and actually it's very, very useful to do. And hopefully people will listen to this and think, do you know what, they had a conversation, it included the themes of thoughts and feelings and life lessons and experiences, and that is mental health. So maybe they might feel more inclined to have those conversations with the men in their lives, fathers, brothers, sons, whoever. So thank you very much for your input, your amazing answers. And one last thing to our listeners, that if there's any takeaways that they got from what you said that we didn't pick up on, I want them to get in touch with us and to let us know what they are, so that we can look out for those kind of takeaways in future conversations.
Yeah, let us know your thoughts. It'd be great to hear from people, wouldn't it? And I'm sure there's loads of people have got loads of good ideas to contribute, and it all gets that dialogue flowing, doesn't it? So interact with us and get in touch. It'd be great.
Thank you, brothers.
Cool. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.